My name is Song Mingyu, and I never knew my father. After my mother died, all I ever wanted was to find a good man and have a strong, healthy child to keep me company. As luck would have it, I ended up tangled with a sickly man who coughed up blood every day. One drunken night, I got pregnant as I wished. I packed my things ready to slip away, but he held me tight in his arms. Either take me and the baby, or leave neither behind, your choice. 01. I went to the river to do the laundry, and fished out a man instead. I scrubbed him down with a big brush, and he was surprisingly handsome. His skin was as soft as tofu, his eyebrows as black as ink, his hair sleek and smooth with not a single knot. What a pity he was badly injured and terribly thin. Carrying him was lighter than a chestnut log. Otherwise, I could have asked him to help me have a child. I regretted it for a moment. Then an idea popped into my head. I carried the big wooden bucket in one hand and him on the other, humming a tune as I walked. After a while, the unconscious man suddenly spoke, his voice cold and hard. Leave me and run, or you'll lose your life. Really? Is that how you speak to your savior? I clamped down hard on his waist. Not a chance. You haven't repaid me yet. Cough, cough, cough. The man suppressed a fit of coughing. They're catching up. No sooner had he spoken than I heard a loud shout. There he is. It was followed by the rustle of many feet crunching on dry leaves, and the whiz of arrows flying through the air. Damn it. This man was useful to me. I couldn't let them take him away. I immediately broke into a run, the men behind me chasing me like glue, refusing to let go. The man on my shoulder jolted with every step, coughing incessantly. Throw the bucket away. I'll throw you away before I throw the bucket. My clothes are all in it. I was poor enough as it was. If I threw everything away, how would I afford new ones? I knew the mountain terrain like the back of my hand, and I was fast and strong. The men kept on my tail, but they could never catch up. The scar-faced leader snarled, "Stop, or we'll shoot you full of arrows." I was gasping for breath after running so far, and ahead of me was a cliff. 02. I set down the bucket, held the man tight to stop him from struggling, turned to the black-cloaked men and grinned, then jumped off the cliff with him in my arms. The wind howled in my ears, mixed with the man's urgent voice. Are you insane? Just like the time I accidentally fell. The branches of the big tree at the bottom of the cliff broke our fall. I rolled to the side, and my head hit a big rock. A wave of dizziness washed over me. Before I lost consciousness, I pulled off my red headrope and tied it around his wrist. Your life is mine now. Don't dare run away while I'm gone. When I woke up again, I was lying on my own bed, and the big wooden bucket was standing safe and sound in the yard. The man was sleeping on the ground next to my bed, on a thick bed of straw. His long black eyelashes were like a butterfly's wings, resting on his bloodless face. So handsome, yet such a sickly thing. I got up to cook porridge, and when I came back, he was awake. When he heard my surname was Song and that I'd never met my father, his dark eyes stared at my face in surprise, looking me up and down carefully. TSK. He must not have expected a country girl to be this beautiful. I waited on him hand and foot for a few days, and found out his name was Shan Jin, and he had no money on him. As for the rest, I got nothing out of him. 5 days later, there was a hint of color back in his tofu white face, and I dragged him out the door. I chattered non-stop the whole way. I'll take you to a nice place with white flour and rice. You have to play along later. Got it? Old Master Chen is looking for a study companion for his son. You just say you've studied. Okay. He didn't say a word, his dark eyes watching me with amusement, as if I were a monkey performing at a market. I thought about the child, and the meal ticket I was about to get, my spirits soaring, and didn't think too much about his reaction. When we arrived, I talked the Chen steward's ear off, gushing that this was my distant cousin Ernyo, who could read and wait on people. And I'd only charged 2 taels of silver for 3 years as a book boy. The steward's eyes lit up at his looks. and he stepped forward to question him. But the man who'd been fine the whole way suddenly broke into a fit of coughing, violent, heart-wrenching coughs. His pretty face flushed red, the corners of his eyes grew wet, and his eyes filled with tears, looking utterly pitiful. Naturally, the deal fell through. The 2 taels of silver I'd had in my grasp were gone, and I was furious. I stormed back home with my head down. He followed me the whole way, skinny as a bamboo pole, yet surprisingly fast on his feet, and not a single cough. I stopped short and glared at him fiercely. "Why are you still following me?" Shan Jin's dark eyes fixed on me, and he asked coolly, "You saved me just for 2 taels of silver." 03. He'd definitely been faking it earlier. So angry, I rolled my eyes hard. "You bet I did. What do you think I am, the goddess of mercy come down to earth? If I'd known you weren't even worth 2 taels of silver, why would I have wasted my time?" His handsome face clouded over, his dark eyes turning deep and shadowy. "Seeing as you live a lonely life, I won't hold it against you." He hadn't finished speaking when I heard a deep male voice call me, "Mingyu." I looked in the direction of the voice and broke into a big smile. Brother Danu. Dan Nyo was the village chief's only son. He broke off a section of lotus root from his bamboo basket and handed it to me. "Mingyu, just dug this for you." I swallowed hard and shook my head. "No need, Brother Danu. I still need to save up for the 2 taels of silver for a while longer." Dan Nyo's face turned bright red, and his mud-streaked hands twisted the rope of the basket tightly. "Mingyu, if you really mean it, you don't have to pay the silver tonight." I cut him off quickly. "That won't do, we agreed on this." Dan Nyo sighed. "Hurry then, my father's already arranging a marriage for me." I nodded firmly. After watching Dan Nyo leave, Shan Jin asked flatly, "You owe him 2 taels of silver, and he's saving it to marry a wife." I snapped back irritably. "No, I give him 2 taels of silver, and he spends a few nights with me, so I can get pregnant smoothly." We were walking on a ridge at the time, and he stumbled at my words, nearly falling over. He looked at me with an expression of utter disbelief. I stared right back at him and said, "What are you looking at? Is it only okay for men to pay for women, but not for women to pay for men? Brother Danu and I have a pure monetary relationship. If you just played along earlier." I stroked my stomach regretfully. I might already be pregnant now. My mother had been driven out of her home after getting pregnant out of wedlock. And the smooth-talking man had never appeared again. She told me since I was little, no man is good for anything. My mother died 3 years ago, leaving me all alone. It was lonely. I didn't want to marry, but I wanted a child of my own. Looking all over the village, only Dan Nyo's family was all big and strong. In the countryside, a child didn't need to be too smart, but they had to be healthy, only then could they live a long life. Shan Jin was utterly shocked by my reasoning, and silently pulled his collar tighter around his neck. 04 H. With a frail body like his, he might not even be up to the task. Even if he was, the child we had would probably be as tiny as a cat. I wouldn't even look twice at that. I tugged at his hand to get my red head rope back. It was the last thing my mother bought me before she died, but he said he'd lost it. It infuriated me to no end. We walked all the way back to my shabby little house on the edge of the village. And there was actually a luxurious carriage parked in the yard. The bells on the 4 corners of the carriage must have been made of pure copper. They shone brightly in the sun, even glinting, as soon as they saw us. For tall black-cloaked men swarmed over and called out, "Young master." One of them stared straight at me and reached out to grab my throat. "Hey, how rude." I planted my feet firmly, reached out, grabbed his arm, and swung it up into the air. The black-cloaked man arced in a perfect semicircle and thudded to the ground. "Hehe, I'm the prettiest girl for 10 miles around. If I wasn't born with superhuman strength, I wouldn't dare live alone in this remote place." The black-cloaked man's face turned red with embarrassment, mostly shame, not pain. Only then did Shan Jin speak slowly. "Don't trouble her. she saved my life." Everyone bowed their heads in unison and replied, "Yes, young master." Shan Jin got into the carriage, changed his clothes and combed his hair, and he looked just like a pot of freshly cooked chicken soup, bright and fragrant all over. He exuded nobility, looking down at me from above, his handsome eyebrows slightly furrowed. "I never owe a debt of gratitude. You saved my life, name your reward." My eyes darted around the four sturdy black-cloaked men. What a tough choice. After a long moment, Shan Jin and I spoke at the same time. He spoke with a hint of arrogance, as if bestowing a gift. "Why not come with me from now on, and live in luxury with fine clothes and good food?" I pointed at the man I'd just thrown to the ground. "Why not let him spend a few nights with me?" 05. The air fell deathly silent. Shan Jin's cold, proud expression crumbled inch by inch. He let out a cold snort and slammed the carriage curtain shut hard. I ended up going with Shan Jin anyway, because the chosen young master Shan said there were plenty of strong men in the capital for me to choose from. And he'd make sure I was satisfied. I think he was mostly afraid I'd break him while we were at it. As if that would happen, I'd only crush him a little, at most. I got into Shan Jin's carriage with Xiaohua. Xiaohua barked woof woof at the ice-faced Shan Jin, and even peed on his shoe. If I hadn't held onto Shan Jin's arm tight, Xiaohua would have been thrown into the river outside the carriage for a bath. The further north we went, the colder the weather got. And the paler Shan Jin's face became as white as the first snow of winter, and he had violent fits of coughing every now and then. Surely he wouldn't die before I even got to see a strong man, would he? Filled with worry, I wrapped him up tight in a blanket. Cough, 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 let go. His breathing grew more ragged, his coughing making the tips of his ears red. Not letting go. "You're coughing because you're cold. When I was cold as a kid, my mother wrapped me up just like this." His body stiffened slightly, and after a few breaths, he reached out to push me away. In the tussle, I lost control of my strength. His clothes tore open, revealing a patch of enticing snow-white skin on his shoulder. Master Shan heard the commotion and lifted the carriage curtain. His face flushed bright red at the sight, and he slammed it shut again, murmuring, "The young master is in poor health. Miss Song, please take good care of him." "Wait, that's not, Master Shan. Listen to me explain. I'm only interested in tough men like you." He clearly didn't care about my explanation, for I heard him snickering to himself, glad he'd escaped trouble. "Young man, don't count your chickens before they hatch." I wrinkled my nose in disgust and tried to push Shan Jin away, but his cold hand clamped down hard on the back of my neck, pinning me in place. His voice was icy and sharp. "Remember this, even if you saved my life, I am not someone you can hug and push away as you please." His ice-cold fingers glided slowly over my throat, the chill sending a shiver straight through me. "Do you understand?" he pressed. Gone was his earlier sickly air, his gaze was sharp and cold, his aura so intense it made my breath catch. I'm a coward who fears death, so I nodded obediently at once. He let out a soft, mocking chuckle, removed his fingers, and shifted to lean against me, his eyes closing comfortably. "You're softer than a cushion." That's my proudest feature you're leaning on." "Of course it's soft." That night we stayed at an inn. As the night wore on, his coughing grew worse. I was in the next room, and I couldn't rest easy listening to it, so I went to check on him. He was just taking his medicine, a handful of black pills, over a dozen. Big and small, he tipped them all into his mouth. His brows furrowed tight as his Adam's apple bobbed repeatedly. I couldn't hold back. "Are you stupid? Why not take them in batches?" He lifted his eyes to me, swallowed hard. His voice hoarse. "They're too bitter. I don't want to suffer it multiple times." I scoffed. "How old are you?" "Still afraid of." Before I could finish the word bitterness, he suddenly pinched my chin and stuffed something into my mouth. "If you're not afraid, have one too." "Of course I'm afraid." I sputtered and tried to spit it out. but a sweet, honeyed flavor burst across my tongue. It wasn't medicine at all, it was a piece of super sweet preserved fruit. Master Shan muttered beside him. That was the last one. Shan Jin looked at me calmly, the dim candlelight softening his sharp features. His voice was gentle as he said, I've taken my medicine. Go to bed now. Sigh, I really am a kind girl. That piece of preserved fruit, sweet enough to make my toes curl, had won me over. I was on my best behavior for the rest of the journey. After 5 bumpy days, we finally reached the Marquis mansion. It was so lavish, my eyes couldn't take it all in. No wonder Shan Jin dressed like a peacock even when he was away from home. As soon as he returned, the steward fetched him to see the old Marquis. To his credit, he told Master Shan to settle me in before he left. I quickly washed my face and changed into a maid's dress, then grabbed Master Shan. My voice brimming with excitement, let's go find me a man. 06. Shan Jin had said not to hold me back, so I used that as an excuse to force Master Shan to comply. He pulled a long face and took me to Chiao Pavilion. Oh my god, there really is a paradise like this in the world. Handsome men everywhere, every type imaginable. Compared to them, Darniu was nothing. Wealth is truly wonderful. With money, you can be with handsome men every day, for the first time. I felt a fierce longing for gold and silver. Though my eyes were dazzled by the sight, I never forgot my purpose. I told Master Shan to get me a few strong ones, always shop around. After all, for the sake of my child, I'd pick one who was both strong and good-looking. Master Shan had only just left when the private room door was pushed open. I thought he'd been quick, but when I looked up, I saw a fat man with cloudy eyes and a huge belly, easily 200 jin if not more. His greasy, disgusting gaze raked over my face, and he laughed louder than a pig eating slop in a pen. What a pretty little maid. Heard you wanted a strong one, brother'll play with you. With that, he charged straight at me. The madam behind him paled, stammering out pleas to stop him, but she didn't dare step forward to pull him back. What an idiot, can't even tell the difference between strong and fat. My heart raced with a mix of nervousness and excitement. Another chance to witness the miracle of brute strength. The second he lunged in front of me, I planted both hands on his belly, grabbed his belt, and heaved with all my might. I lifted the 200 jin fat man clean off the ground. Not only that, I spun him around in the air, making him scream like a slaughtered pig. The fat pig howled, I'm the young master of the Duke of Qing's mansion. Let me down if you know what's good for you. Fine, I let go with a blank expression. A deafening thud echoed, and the floorboards seemed to shake. All the color drained from the fat man's face, and he was gasping for breath, barely hanging on. I stared down at him innocently. You told me to let you down. Get help. The room quickly filled with over a dozen burly men. I had no time to admire their physiques now, for each one was holding a sword, swords as long as my arm, sharper than the big chopper I used to cut firewood. Woohoo, I'm a little scared, luckily. Master Shan returned just then. He leaped into the room, shielded me behind him, and spoke neither humble nor pushy. Young Master Qing, this is all a misunderstanding. Miss Song is our young master's guest. The fat pig of Qing stood up, clutching his waist, his eyes vicious. Cut the crap, take her away. If I don't break this little bitch's bones and feed them to the dogs today, I'll change my surname. The dozen burly men closed in on us. One swung his huge sword, and a lock of my hair fluttered to the ground. Watching Master Shan struggle to hold them off, my legs turned to jelly. Then, a low fit of coughing sounded outside the door. 07. This coughing, which had annoyed me to no end and disturbed my sleep the whole journey, sounded like the sweetest music right now. Catching sight of Shan Jin's immaculate, snow-white robes, I burst into loud sobs on the spot. The fat pig of Qing, still seething, said in a sinister tone, Young Master Shan, your dog bit someone. I won't hold you. It's master, responsible. But this dog, I must take her with me. Tears welled in my eyes. He molested me first. Shan Jin, I'm yours, you can't let some random stray dog bully me. Shan Jin curved his lips into a smile, a cold, enchanting smile that made every heart in the room skip a beat. He beckoned to me. Come here. Ah, but there are so many big swords blocking me. Yet his gaze was so sure. I swallowed my fear and stumbled toward him, trembling. His smile widened further. Those lackeys would not let me go so easily. They raised their massive swords, their faces fierce. I nearly fell to my knees. But then I saw Shan Jin slowly pick up a few dice from a maid's tray beside him. His indifferent eyes suddenly turned sharp as arrows, and he flung the dice hard. A swish of wind brushed past my ears, lifting my hair high before it slowly fell back down. The lackeys paled, screamed, and crumpled to the ground all at once. Their swords clattering everywhere. I swallowed hard. Damn it, he's an incredible martial artist. He must have held back on me before. I'd been rescued. But Shan Jin's face was dark as a storm cloud. I hung my head in shame, trailing after him like a scolded wife as we got into the carriage. The second the curtain fell, he broke into a violent fit of coughing. He was like a beauty carved from cold jade, aloof and icy, but the coughing painted his cheeks bright red, his eyes glistening with moisture. His lips unnaturally pale. He looked like a fresh gardenia, crushed hard in a hand, its sweet juice squeezed out. It took the fragile flower a long time to calm down. He slowly wiped his mouth with a handkerchief, his cold eyes flicking to me as I stared at the ground. Do you know your mistake? I nodded vigorously. Yes. His tone rose, sharp with irritation. Then where did you go wrong? I replied meekly. I was wrong not to bring you along for such a fun thing. Cough, cough, cough. He burst into another fit of coughing, his fingers tightening around the handkerchief until his knuckles whitened. He's really angry now. You're the best martial artist I've ever seen. I plucked up the courage to tug his sleeve, looking pitiful. If I'd brought you, that fat pig would never have dared to mess with me. I was so scared today. Thank goodness you came in time. Shan Jin slowly steadied his breathing, closed his eyes wearily, and said flatly, from now on, you are not to leave the Marquis mansion unless you are with me. Ah, does that mean I can only find a strong man inside the mansion? Thinking of strong men, I tugged at my clothes and muttered softly, why is it so hot? Shan Jin's eyes flew open. He sat up straight and pressed his fingers to my pulse, his expression hardening. You've been drugged. 08. It was no great surprise. Places like Child.I Pavilion often spiked the tea to make guests more amorous. Poor me. A newcomer who didn't know the rules. We raced back to the Marquis mansion, and I was burning up like a lit charcoal briquette. As I crossed the threshold of Green Mountain Courtyard, my steps unsteady, I tripped and stumbled. The world swam before my eyes, but I reacted quickly, grabbing Shan Jin's trouser leg. I lifted my misty eyes to him. No, I feel so awful. Veins throbbed on Shan Jin's forehead, his Adam's apple bobbing. He held out a hand to me. Get up, back to your room. I glanced over my shoulder, my voice hoarse. Can you send Master Shan to my room later? Master Shan dropped to his knees with a thud, his nose running in fear. Miss Song, spare my life. I licked my dry lips. Then any of the other three will do. I don't care who it is, as long as I get pregnant. I'll leave the Marquis mansion at once. All three of them dropped to their knees in unison, begging for mercy. Woo-hoo, I'm so miserable. Am I really that bad? I'm throwing myself at them, no strings attached, and they still don't want me. Shan Jin ground his teeth. Get back to your own room. I'll send someone to you. I urged him earnestly. Make sure he's strong. The four burly men behind me all let out a collective sigh of relief, their heads bowed like quails, daring not to meet my gaze. Back in my room, several maids pressed me into a wooden tub and scrubbed me raw, rubbing my skin bright red as if I'd lost 2 layers of it. I yelped in pain, but they laughed and said I couldn't stand a little discomfort. Do all you capital folks have skin as tough as iron? Why don't you try scrubbing Shan Jin's jade white skin like this and see how it goes? After being scrubbed clean, my head spun even more, and my hands and feet went limp like roasted sweet potatoes. This city's medicine is really potent. I craned my neck in anticipation. When on earth would the promised strong man be sent to me? Just then, the door creaked open, and a hazy figure in snow-white robes stepped inside. The room was dimly lit, only silver moonlight streaming in. His movements were light, not a speck of dust on his feet. Like an immortal descending on a moonbeam, coming to a stop right by the bed. That face, carved like jade and pale as snow, that hair as black as ink, it was none other than Shan Jin. Was he going to do it himself? I clutched the quilt tightly, a jumble of excitement and nervousness in my chest. This wasn't right, was it? But if my child could inherit a face like his, I'd laugh in my dreams. Yet the thought of his frail body lingered. I was still torn when he slipped off his outer robe, leaving only a thin inner garment. Beneath the moonlight, the sheer fabric fluttered gently, hinting at the outline of his figure. I quickly freed one hand to cover my eyes, peeking at him through my fingers. Don't move, you send someone else instead. He curved his lips into a smile, a faint one that turned my brain to mush. This is my bedroom. If you want someone else, get out yourself. That's too much. The maids had only dressed me in a thin nightgown, so sheer it was almost nothing. How could I go out like this? He was clearly doing it on purpose. If I didn't take advantage of a good thing being handed to me, I'd be a fool. I hardened my heart, gritted my teeth, reached out, pulled him close, and whispered in his ear, "You came to me on your own accord. No takebacks." 09. His eyes darkened, his Adam's apple bobbed hard, his voice hoarse. "Song Mingyu, are you even a woman?" I chuckled, my hand brushing his cheek. "You'll find out soon enough." Having lived alone in this vast world for 3 years, I was lonely. I didn't trust men, but I wanted a child, a continuation of my life, proof of my existence, a companion for the rest of my days. I nuzzled his neck, clumsily yet eagerly pressing my lips to his, cold, soft, and faint with an addictive, delicate fragrance. I closed my eyes involuntarily, about to lean in further, when I heard him cough softly and felt his fingers tap a few spots on my body sharply. I froze, unable to move an inch. "Shan Jin, let me go at once," I squawked. "I'm your savior. How dare you treat me like this?" I was furious. "Shut up." His icy voice came from above my head. I was about to hurl insults at him when he tapped me a few more times. Damn it, I couldn't speak anymore. I rolled my eyes up hard, but he was right behind me, and I couldn't glare at him. So infuriating. I was mentally slicing him to pieces with a big kitchen knife when a patch of cold pressed against my back. Shan Jin coughed softly, his voice laced with weariness. "Calm your heart, wait out the night, and the drug's effect will fade." His whole body was cold, the chill seeping into me steadily, gradually dousing the heat in my chest. To the sound of his occasional soft coughs, I unexpectedly drifted off into a deep sleep. I had a dream. In it, Shan Jin and I tussled fiercely, neither gaining the upper hand. 10. Then I got pregnant, and 3 days later gave birth to a litter of babies, each the spitting image of Shan Jin, and their first sound upon being born wasn't a cry, but a cough. I jolted awake in a cold sweat. I reached out, he was gone. A set of clothes was laid out by the bed, though. It took me a great deal of effort to put them on. When I stepped outside, I saw Xiaohua squatting under a big sweet-scented osmanthus tree, wagging her tail as she chewed on a bone almost as thick as herself. I squatted down beside her, sighing. "We went that far last night, and he still didn't go all the way. He really is useless." Her, "Woof woof woof." Xiaohua agreed with me. I handed the big bone back to her, my face filled with melancholy. Such a handsome man, why does he have to be useless? I hadn't finished pondering this when a maid came to fetch me, saying Shan Jin's father, the Marquis of Junbei, wanted to see me. Shan Jin had red lips, white teeth, and a delicate face, but the Marquis of Junbei was a towering, muscular man with great physical strength. He was exactly the tough man I'd been looking for, just a little old. His gaze was solemn and sharp, sweeping slowly over my face. He nodded, a look of approval in his eyes. You bear a faint resemblance. What did that mean? Shan Jin shot me a glance, his eyes holding an unreadable emotion, and said, The imperial noble consort has summoned you to the palace for an audience. A maid was about to take me down to dress me up elaborately, but Shan Jin stopped her. Leave her as she is. What you see is her true self. I was a little excited on the way to the palace. To think I, a mere country girl, was going to enter the imperial palace. TSK. This would be a story I could brag about for the rest of my life. Shan Jin's expression was dark as he said, This trip is likely a feast of hongmen, a trap. I was over the moon. A feast? Will they serve food too? Cough, cough, cough. Shan Jin choked on his words and broke into a cough. I chuckled. I know there might be danger, but being scared won't help. It's better to think on the bright side. I pressed down on my trembling thigh and said in a loud voice, I'm not the least bit scared. Shan Jin glanced at me. The corners of his lips tugging upward slightly, he pulled a wooden hairpin from his sleeve and stuck it in my hair. Don't worry, your life won't be in danger. I'll wait for you outside the palace gates. He wasn't going in with me. Oh no, I started trembling even more. On the way, the maid gave me a brief explanation. The current empress was from the Marquis of Junbei's mansion, while the most favored imperial noble consort Qing was from the Duke of Qing's mansion. The two factions had been at odds for a long time. The fat pig I'd thrown to the ground yesterday was none other than the imperial noble consort Qing's own younger brother, the young master of the Duke of Qing's mansion. I wasn't going to the palace. No, I was walking into a dragon's den and a tiger's lair. When I entered the imperial noble consort Qing's palace, I was met head-on by the greasy, triumphant smile of the fat pig of Qing. My scalp went numb, a bad premonition welling up in my heart. Sure enough, the stunning imperial noble consort Qing raised her finger, adorned with sharp nail guards, and tilted my chin up. Her smile was bright, her voice soft. You're passably good-looking, a wild country girl like you. Getting to be a concubine in the Duke of Qing's mansion, you must have cultivated blessings for several lifetimes to deserve such good fortune. My mind went blank. I shot to my feet in an instant, stepping back a few paces, and refused firmly. I won't be his concubine. Not even a concubine, even being his wife would be beneath me. The imperial noble consort Qing's smiling face clouded over at once. A maid behind her shouted angrily, What audacity! How dare you defy the imperial noble consort? Do you not want to live anymore? Guards, drag her down and beat her 20 times with the board. The fat pig of Qing snickered from the side. Leave her with her life. I still need her to bear me children. Having a child with a man like him, I'd rather live alone for the rest of my life. The eunuchs in the palace had incredible strength. One blow from the board hurt worse than being gored in the rear by a wild boar. If they finished the 20 blows, I'd probably lose half my life right here. Shan Jin the big liar. He said I'd be fine, said he'd wait for me outside the palace. He was probably waiting to collect my body. At the thought, tears streamed down my face in torrents. 11. The second blow was about to fall when a voice shouted from the door, His Majesty the Emperor arrives. Could this be my savior? The maids and eunuchs tried to pull me to my feet, but I clung tightly to a wooden stool, wailing at the top of my lungs. I'd rather die than be a concubine. Beat me to death if you dare. Everyone in the courtyard dropped to their knees in a flurry. The imperial noble consort Qing clung delicately to the emperor's arm and said, This girl injured Qing Yuan yesterday. He chose not to hold it against her and even wanted to take her as his concubine. Yet this ungrateful girl refuses his kindness. I refused to let go of the stool, and then a figure in bright yellow silk squatted down in front of me. His gaze lingered on every inch of my face, finally falling on the wooden hairpin in my hair. He asked in a deep voice, "Where are you from? When County? Was your father's surname Song?" "I never knew my father. Song is my mother's surname," I added. Refusing to be a concubine is a lesson my mother taught me since I was a child. The emperor seemed to recall some distant memories, his expression complicated. After a long moment, he stood up. "You are a good child who honors her mother's teachings." His voice was full of authority. "A mother's instruction must not be disobeyed. Let this matter drop." A eunuch who had come with the emperor helped me to my feet, giving me a kind smile. The imperial noble consort Qing was stunned, never expecting this outcome. Her red lips parted, about to say something more, and just then, an ornate yet seemingly heavy lantern hanging from a branch above the emperor's head suddenly came crashing down. 12. The sudden turn of events took everyone by surprise. The imperial guards were too far away, my brain went blank, and forgetting the pain in my rear, I charged forward, leaping up and slapping the lantern away with my bare hand. What a coincidence! The lantern slammed hard into the fat pig's chest, sending him sprawling face first on the ground, his eyes rolling back in his head. It was oddly satisfying. The emperor's smile grew even warmer. "You're quite strong too. You saved my life." "What reward do you want?" "Anything I want." The emperor nodded. I dropped to my knees and kowtowed. "Then your majesty, please bestow upon me a strong and reliable man." "Phut!" The emperor burst out laughing. It was raining when I left the imperial noble consort Qing's palace. Eunuch Xiaogui gave me an enormous oil paper umbrella, saying I didn't have to return it. My rear still ached, but my heart was filled with joy. I hummed a tune as I held the umbrella. And when I walked out of the palace gates, I saw Shan Jin standing quietly by the carriage, dressed in his snow-white robes. A fine drizzle hung in the air, a light layer of moisture dotting his hair, even his thick eyelashes glistening as if dusted with dew. The corners of his lips were slightly upturned, his gaze cutting through the throng of imperial guards at the palace gates and landing on me. His eyes were cold, yet they felt like a spark of fire falling into my chest. My heart raced. Flustering me, to hide this inexplicable feeling, I limped over to him and snapped, "You liar, you said I'd be fine. My rear is black and blue, and I almost ended up as that fat pig's concubine." With that, I lifted my foot and kicked toward his calf. I'd forgotten Shan Jin was a martial artist. He sidestepped nimbly, out of the way. I couldn't stop the force of my kick, and my whole body lurched forward. I was about to faceplant into the mud when I instinctively reached out and grabbed Shan Jin's sleeve, but I still lost my balance and thudded to my knees. How embarrassing. "Phut!" I thought I heard him chuckle softly, but when I looked up, his expression was cold and indifferent as ever. "What are you doing?" I threw caution to the wind and held out my hand. "Wishing you an early new year. Don't I get a red envelope for luck?" He froze for a moment, a faint smile flickering in his dark eyes. He unfastened a jade pendant from his waist and handed it to me, patting my head. "Good girl. Take it." Master Shan hurried to speak. "Young master, that's the..." Shan Jin shot him a sidelong glance, and he immediately hung his head and fell silent, chagrined. My eyes lit up with excitement. I cupped the jade pendant and examined it from all sides, swallowing hard. It's worth a lot of money, right? If I sold it, I could probably go to Chiao-Chu Pavilion and find a few strong men to have a child with. Shan Jin seemed to read my mind. "You can keep it as a trinket, but you can't sell it." "Ah, only for looking. What use is that?" I muttered as I climbed into the carriage, but before I could sit down, Shan Jin pulled me into his arms and reached out to lift my skirt. 13. My face flushed bright red. and I struggled frantically. Don't misbehave, I'm not someone you can buy with a worthless jade pendant. Couldn't he give me real gold and silver instead? His movements stilled, and he scoffed, wishful thinking. I'm just checking your injuries. Oh, this is awkward. He didn't take off my trousers, only pressing his hand lightly against my skin through the fabric. Does it hurt? Hiss. Why don't you try it yourself and see? I snapped back irritably. What about this? That's better. Be gentle, gentle. I was eager to get back. But the carriage slowed down just then, and outside, Master Shan was chatting with the coachman at the top of his lungs, spouting nothing but nonsense. What on earth is he up to? When I got off the carriage, Master Shan glanced a few times at my messy hair and smiled a strange, knowing smile. That smile. It's just like the village matchmakers. I was starving, so I hurried into the mansion. As soon as I crossed the threshold, I heard a soft, delicate voice call out, "Cousin." I followed the voice and saw a young girl in a primrose-colored dress. She had delicate features, fair skin, and a slender figure, holding an apricot-colored oil paper umbrella as if she'd stepped straight out of a painting, her almond eyes fixed on Shan Jin, and as she lifted her foot to cross the threshold, she tripped accidentally. She hurtled forward. Unlike my clumsy fall to my knees, Shan Jin reached out and caught her steadily this time, his voice soft as he asked, "When did you come back? You're not well, you should rest more and not run around." They stood side by side, sharing the same umbrella, and they looked perfect together. Shan Jin had no time for me, so I buried my head and returned to my courtyard, devouring a bowl of chicken noodle soup in big gulps. I just finished when a maid hurried over and said the cook had forgotten to add salt to the noodles. Really, maybe I was just too hungry to taste it. After eating my fill, I sat on the veranda to digest my food. Recalling what Master Shan had told me on the way back to my courtyard, the Emperor had appeared so timely today because Shan Jin had gone to ask the Empress for help. Also, Shan Jin's cousin Shen Ying had lost her parents when she was young and had been raised in the Marquis mansion. Growing up with Shan Jin, because of her poor health, she spent more than half the year living in a temple. Two sickly people together, aren't they afraid of having a litter of sickly children in the future? I was just thinking this when a soft, delicate cough sounded. Shen Ying was here. She smiled warmly and graciously, taking my hand. "Sister, I really have to thank you. If it weren't for you, I would have been the one in trouble this time." 14. She calls this trouble, even though I took a beating with the board. I'm wearing silk and satin, sleeping on a thick mattress and soft bed, eating the most exquisite delicacies. If this is trouble, I'd be happy to be trapped like this for the rest of my life. Shen Ying had no idea what I was thinking, smiling sincerely. "It's okay if you don't understand, just accept my gratitude anyway." With that, she waved her hand, and a maid behind her brought over a tray. Wow, it was filled with jewels and jewelry, plus 2 gold ingots. Oh my God, how many strong men can this buy? Shen Ying looked pleased as I stared at the treasures with greedy eyes, and the maid, quick-witted, prepared to set the tray down. I gritted my teeth and held her hand back, shaking my head. It was Shan Jin who brought me back here. If anyone is to give me gifts, it should be him. "Miss Shen, please take these things back." Shen Ying's brows furrowed. I pulled the jade pendant out of my sleeve. Actually, he already gave me a gift today. Shen Ying's gaze fell on the jade pendant, and her face paled dramatically. In the end, she left in low spirits. As she reached the end of the veranda, she suddenly turned around. Through the misty rain curtain, her eyes looked unusually dark and cold. "Perfect. Your discomfort is my comfort. Who are you pretending to be magnanimous for? With the look in your eyes today, I can tell you want to have a child with Shan Jin, but there's no need to take me as your rival in love. Shan Jin is much nicer to you than he is to me. I have a thick skin, so that single board didn't hurt my bones." After applying some stasis-removing ointment for 2 days, I was almost fully recovered. Just then, the emperor issued an imperial edict. For meritorious service in saving his life, I was conferred the title of Lady Mingyu of the county, granted a fief of 300 households, and entitled to a yearly salary. What's more, I was allowed to attend the winter hunt in 2 days' time. Eunuch Xiaogui, who came to proclaim the edict, leaned in and whispered mysteriously, "His Majesty means there will be many young lords from noble families at the winter hunt. My lady, you can take a look for yourself and see if any catch your fancy." Oh my God, this isn't the emperor, this is my real father. Hunting wasn't the main point anyway. The real point was to resolve the marriage problems of young men and women in the capital, allowing a certain degree of free choice. Shan Jin's health was poor. Master Shan said he never attended such events in previous years. Perfect. He can stay in the mansion and be lovey-dovey with his cousin, while I go out and find myself a match. But the next morning, I lifted the carriage curtain and climbed in only to see Shan Jin sitting there, sipping tea leisurely. I curled my lip. He set down his teacup and glanced at me. "You can't even draw a bow. Why did the emperor let you go?" I replied, grinning from ear to ear. "His Majesty said I can pick a favorite strong man from the participants." Hehe, 15. Shan Jin raised an eyebrow, poured a cup of tea, and pushed it toward me. "Drink, the temperature is just right." I was thirsty anyway, so I let my guard down, picked it up, and gulped it down in one big mouthful. Phut, it was scalding hot, and I spat it all out at once. I glared at him fiercely. "Did you do that on purpose?" He picked up his own teacup and took a sip, his expression calm. "I think the temperature is perfect. It's not the same. You've been holding that cup for ages, it's already cold." The western suburbs hunting ground was enormous. The area just for setting up tents for the nobles was bigger than all the rice fields in our village combined. As soon as we arrived, I couldn't wait to jump out of the carriage. It was bustling with noise and excitement, a sea of people. The young lords were passable, but the young ladies were dressed like colorful butterflies. Are they really sure they're here to hunt? With this commotion, any prey would be scared away for sure. I scanned the crowd and saw a tall, robust man with wheat-colored skin and deep features, propping up a thick chestnut log with both hands, his tone scornful. "You two grown men can't even put up a single flag. How embarrassing." With that, he tried to lift the log and stick it into the pre-dug hole, but his foot slipped. He struggled several times, almost falling flat on his face. The retinue behind him wanted to laugh but didn't dare, their faces turning red with suppressed mirth, and no one stepped forward to help. Being helpful is my virtue. I walked over, snatched the log from him, and jammed it into the hole with a thud, saying to the stunned man, "What are you standing there for? Fill the hole with dirt." The man's eyes lit up, like a dog spotting a bone. After we finished, the Marquis Mansion's tent was already set up. I lifted the curtain and walked in, and Master Shan said in a sarcastic tone, "Oh, you're back. I thought you'd stay with General Song the Younger." Shan Jin was wrapped in a fox fur cloak, warming himself by the fire. He didn't even glance my way, only saying in a flat voice, "Song Zheng is a notorious playboy. You'd better stay away from him." A playboy. So what? All I want is his body. But he couldn't even lift a chestnut log. Was he a little weak in the knees? Shan Jin was frail, and the cold wind was howling outside, so he stayed in the tent by the fire. But I'd come all this way, so I naturally wanted to go out and have fun. But I'd only walked a short distance when Song Zheng caught up. The cold wind blustered, and the ground was covered in snow. He was wearing a bright red cloak, a sight that instantly brightened one's mood. He held out a bouquet of cream-colored flowers to me, smiling like the sun. "So you're the newly conferred Lady Mingyu. Thank you for earlier. I picked these myself. Will this do as a thank you gift?" 16. As he spoke, he preened and ran a hand through his hair proudly. "TSK. I took the flowers and chuckled. Nice grass, in the countryside. We feed this to pigs, it's just a little light on the portion. Though, Song Zheng's expression crumpled, and his retinue couldn't hold back their laughter any longer. Song Zheng flew into a rage. What are you laughing at? Didn't you hear the lady say it's too little? Hurry up and pick more at once, make sure you fill the lady's pig up. He seemed to be insulting me in a roundabout way, but I didn't bother to argue. Continuing to walk into the forest, Song Zheng trotted after me, close on my heels. After walking a while, we found a litter of rabbits. This time he finally had a chance to show off. We worked hard, and he put on a big performance, catching all 5 fluffy white rabbits from the litter. He tied their legs together with straw rope, slung the string over his hand, and swirled it in front of my eyes, leaning in close with his peach blossom eyes fixed on me. Aren't they adorable? I'll take them back for you to raise. How about making them our engagement token? Isn't it such a fresh, unique, and creative idea? I reached out and squeezed one rabbit's belly, nodding in satisfaction. They're pretty good, each one's nice and fat. Let's take them back and roast them for dinner. Song Zheng was completely dumbfounded. He flung the rabbits in his hand. My lady, you're fascinating. You don't play by the rules at all. But he underestimated his own strength. With that fling, the straw rope snapped, the rabbits flew off, and scattered in all directions. I let out a shriek. Hey, my rabbit! My eyes were fixed on the fattest one. But it was far faster than me. I was about to lose it when the clatter of hooves sounded behind me. Before I could react, I was yanked onto the horseback and pressed tightly against Shan Jin's chest. The horse galloped forward, the wind roaring in my ears, mixed with Song Zheng's furious shouts. I was about to listen to what he was yelling when Shan Jin pressed something into my hand. The rabbit's right ahead. Shoot it yourself with this crossbow. But I don't know how. He reined in the horse, wrapped his arm around me, lifted my right arm high, and leaned in close to my ear. His voice firm. It's simple. Aim first, then press. We were so close that I could feel the thud of his heartbeat, smell the faint scent of medicine on him, and hear the soft bob of his Adam's apple. My head was buzzing. Seeing half the rabbit's body already in its burrow, I didn't dare get distracted. The short arrow whizzed out and hit the rabbit right on the rump. I actually hit it. I scrambled off the horse, picked up the bleeding rabbit, and yelled up at Shan Jin on the horse. I hit it on my first try. Shan Jin held the reins, coughed softly twice, and his dark eyes sparkled like they held stars. Yes, you're amazing. Song Zheng ran over, clutching 2 rabbits. I'll give you these too. I saw another rabbit burrow ahead. Let's keep going. I was on a high. Sure, you dig them out, I'll shoot. Just then, a cold wind blew, and Shan Jin broke into a violent fit of coughing. 17. His pale face flushed bright red, the veins on his neck standing out clearly. His straight back hunching over like a frail shrimp. I hurried over, chiding him. You know you're sickly. Why do you run out in this freezing cold? I reached for the reins. Let's go, head back first. Song Zheng stepped forward and grabbed my wrist. You're not playing anymore. Besides rabbits, there are pheasants in the mountains. We can catch one and make a feather fan for you. I'm hungry. Let's go back and eat first. Song Zheng raised an eyebrow. Fine, then I'll go back with you. Tell me about the fun things you did in the countryside before. It was rare for a young lord to be interested in such things, and I was about to chat away when Shan Jin bent down, scooped me up, and plopped me back on the horse. Cough, cough, cough. He finally calmed his cough, gasped, and said, sit in front, block the wind for me. Is this even human behavior? I may be super strong, but I'm still a girl. But Shan Jin wouldn't let me argue, and urged the horse into a gallop, in a panic. I quickly snatched the 2 rabbits from Song Zheng's arms. Mud splattered by the horse's hooves hit Song Zheng in the face. He seemed to be yelling curses, but the wind was too loud to hear what he said. Shan Jin opened his fox fur cloak and wrapped me in it, even putting his hat on my head. So I wasn't cold at all, though by the time we reached the camp, his cough had gotten much worse. Master Shan waited on him to take his pills and lie down to rest. I had no mood to dig for more rabbit burrows. So I went out of the tent, found someone to clean the rabbits, marinated them, and set them over the fire to roast. After roasting for more than an hour, the aroma wafted everywhere, and I swallowed hard. Just then, Shan Jin came out, his face still looking pale. I pointed at the sizzling rabbits. "Are you hungry? They'll be ready soon. I've been turning them the whole time. They must be so tasty," he replied flatly. "The Crown Prince has summoned me for dinner. Eat as much as you want by yourself." "Oh," I answered, disappointed. He followed a young eunuch forward, leaving a trail of lonely footprints in the snow. After walking about 2 jong, he suddenly stopped and turned to look at me, the corners of his lips curving up. "If you can't finish, save some for me." 18. My downcast eyes lit up in an instant, and I curled my lip. "Then you have to come back early, or I'll eat it all." As soon as Shan Jin left, Song Zheng showed up, drawn by the smell. He sniffed the air and licked his lips. "My lady, I didn't know you had such skills," I preened. "There's a lot you don't know about me." He chuckled and handed me a box. I opened it, and wow, it was filled with more than a dozen hairpins of different styles. Song Zheng smiled brightly. "They're all for you. These can't be fed to pigs, right?" I swallowed hard and pushed the box back. "I don't accept gifts for no reason. I'm staying at the Marquis mansion now. I can't bring shame to Shan Jin, not being upset by my refusal." Song Zheng smiled even wider, leaned in, and whispered, "I heard you want to find a strong man to have a child with. What about me?" As he spoke, he patted his chest. I broke off a rabbit's head and stuffed it forcefully into his mouth. Not good enough. His figure was perfect, but in the short time he'd sat here, 5 women had batted their eyes at him. What if this womanizing trait is hereditary? He yelped from the heat, spat out the rabbit's head, and reached for a rabbit leg. "I'm General Song the Younger, and this is all you give me to eat." But the second his hand touched it, I swatted his knuckles with a fire iron. "Get lost. This is saved for Shan Jin. If you don't want the head, go back to your own tent." Song Zheng pouted unhappily. "You're the first person in the capital who dares to treat me like this," he muttered softly. "Just because I like you." The roasted rabbit was incredibly delicious. I ate until my mouth was greasy, happy enough to float to the heavens. Song Zheng beside me stopped gnawing on the rabbit's head, his bright eyes staring at me. "Is it that good?" I sucked my fingers. "It's my first time eating it. Back in the countryside, even if I caught a rabbit, I couldn't bear to eat it myself. I'd sell it for money to buy oil, salt, and rough cloth. I'd never even seen seasonings like pepper and fennel powder before." The campfire crackled, and I smiled openly at him. Being a lady of the county is pretty great. The firelight danced in Song Zheng's eyes. His Adam's apple bobbed hard, and he quickly tore off a rabbit leg and stuffed it into my mouth. "Eat more if you like it, as long as you want to eat. I'll supply all the rabbits you want for the rest of your life." Shan Jin was gone for a long time. The rabbit legs cooled down and were reheated, cooled down and reheated again. By the time he came back, they were dry and hard as a rock. He'd been drinking, the scent of wine covering the mint on his body. He glanced at the shriveled rabbit legs, his eyebrows furrowing slightly. My heart tightened, and I shoved the plate into Song Zheng's arms. "You've been yelling for them, eat your fill." Song Zheng's eyes widened. "You give them to me now that they're like this." I glared back. "If you don't eat them, give them back." Song Zheng took a big bite out of each rabbit leg, muttering through a full mouth, "No way, once it's mine, you can't have it back." I tugged at the corner of my mouth at Shan Jin. "I'll roast you another rabbit when I catch one. You ate with the Crown Prince, so you must have had plenty of delicacies anyway." The night wind fluttered his snow-white cloak. He coughed softly a few times, shot Song Zheng a cold glance, reached out, and took my wrist. "It's late, it's cold outside, let's go in. Song Zheng was quick, grabbing my other hand. Mingyu, I brought fireworks, let's go set off fireworks together. 19. The air seemed to freeze in an instant. Two men, one calm and one fiery, stared at me. I had an illusion that I was quite popular. To be honest, I'd only ever heard of fireworks, never actually seen them. My feet moved toward Song Zheng instinctively, but just then, Shan Jin broke into a violent fit of coughing, cough after cough, as if he was going to cough up his insides. I quickly pulled my hand free from Song Zheng's and hurried to support Shan Jin. Why are you coughing so badly? Did you take your medicine today? Did you drink at the feast? Shan Jin hunched over slightly, letting me support him into the tent. I don't know if it was my imagination, but the second the curtain fell, I thought I saw him shoot Song Zheng a triumphant smile. Inside the tent, he drank 2 cups of hot tea before finally calming down. Just then, Master Shan came in, carrying a food box. When he opened it, a rich aroma filled the air. A guard of the crown prince hunted a bear and made bear's paw. Shan Jin set down his teacup. I thought you'd never had it, so I brought it back for you. Master Shan added from the side, there's only 1 serving for each person. The young master didn't bear to eat his own. Shan Jin shot him a sidelong glance. Too much talk. I stared at the bowl of steaming bear's paw, my eyes slowly reddening. There were occasional banquets in the countryside, and every time, my mother would bring back the good dishes like chicken legs or braised pork for me. These meat dishes were a single serving for each person, no extras. She said she didn't like them, but it was just that she couldn't bear to eat them. I was actually already stuffed, but I still ate the whole bowl of bear's paw, tears streaming down my face. After I finished, I noticed something was wrong with Shan Jin. His face was flushed, his eyes hazy and unfocused. Master Shan cleaned up the bowls and chopsticks quickly. The young master can't drink alcohol, but he had a few cups today. He must be drunk. Miss Song, I'll leave the young master to you. With that, he grabbed the food box and scurried off, even telling everyone else to stay far from the tent and not disturb us. What's there to disturb about? They just don't want to wait on a drunk person. That's all. I was grumbling to myself when Shan Jin reached out and pulled me into his arms. The scent of wine on him wrapped around me, his warm breath fanning my ear. Do you like someone like Song Zheng? I spoke the truth. His figure is okay. But, before I could finish, Shan Jin pressed his lips to mine. Don't like him. He bent down, picked me up, his gaze burning like fire. My figure is good too. Help. He's drunk. He's a completely different person from usual. I stared at the stunning face above me and swallowed hard. I'm throwing caution to the wind. He's drunk. He probably won't remember what happened tomorrow. Right, I'm a county lady now, rolling in money. Even if I have a sickly child, I can afford to raise them, no worries at all. With such beauty in front of me, only a fool would hold back. 20. The red candles glowed warm. The curtain draped soft, a night of tender bliss. In that short night, I learned many truths about life. First, never judge a person by their appearance. A sickly man can have astonishing stamina. Second, no wonder the village women kept having one child after another, aside from the initial part. The process was actually quite delightful. An hour later, I climbed out of bed, sore in the waist, tidied the messy bed sheets, and sneaked out of the tent with dark circles under my eyes. Taking advantage of Shan Jin's drunkenness, I'd taken advantage of him. If he found out, would he chop off my little hands? After all, I'd once seen him cut off the hands of a maid who snuck into his bed at night. Sigh, lust is the knife at one's throat. I slunk out of the Marquis Mansion's encampment, only to bump straight into a wall of a man. It was Song Zheng. Thick snow covered his body, his eyes bloodshot as he stared at me, his voice hoarse. You were with Shan Jin just now, in his tent. My heart skipped a beat. I jumped up and covered his mouth. Shut up, don't spout nonsense. If Shanjin heard this, I'd be a goner for sure. He hung his head. Like an abandoned dog, I've been standing here for 2 hours, waiting for you to come out of his tent. I'm freezing. Sit with me by the fire for a while, in the middle of the night. There was no one around but patrolling guards. Everyone was fast asleep. I dared not go back into Shanjin's tent, nor wake anyone up in the dead of night, so I sat by the fire with Song Zheng. The campfire was dying out. Song Zheng added firewood while forcing a bitter smile. If I'd rushed in just now, ignoring the Marquis Mansion's guards, would you have? No, I cut him off. I'm sorry, young General Song. I have no intention of marrying anyone. I only want to find someone to have a child with. Ever since I was little, when I was sick, when my mother and I were bullied, when we went hungry, father was always absent. I glanced at Song Zheng. Mother said father once swore he'd love only her for the rest of his life. But what happened in the end? Song Zheng's expression was complicated. Then what about you and Shanjin? I gritted my teeth. He was drunk. He probably doesn't remember anything. Please don't say a word about this either. Under my intense gaze, Song Zheng gave in. Fine, I'll do as you say. I was exhausted, not just in body, but in heart too. The warm firelight wrapped around me, my head grew dizzy, and I gradually drifted off to sleep. I dreamed again. I dreamed that Shanjin found out about our absurd night, and reluctantly married me, but his eyes were filled with loathing when he looked at me, and half a year later, he took Shenying into the mansion as his wife. Song Mingyu, you brought this on yourself. In the dream, he glared at me coldly. I jolted awake with a start, and my eyes met a pair of icy cold ones. The morning sun had already risen over the horizon, but his handsome face was still as cold as ice. His stare made me guilty. I leaned back instinctively, and fell into Song Zheng's arms. He held my shoulders, his gaze toward Shan Jin brimming with provocation. Young Master Shan, you've frightened Mingyu. My heart was indeed pounding wildly. I swallowed hard, and said awkwardly, why you're awake, last night. You, Shan Jin's ears flushed pink. He spoke hesitantly. Song Zheng cut him off. Last night, Mingyu sat with me by the fire, chatting. We hit it off so well that we lost track of time until dawn. Shan Jin's brows furrowed tightly. His fingers hanging by his sides curled into fists. He stared at me unblinkingly, his voice dark. Is that true? Before I could answer, I saw Shenying walking quickly over in the morning light. Dressed in pale pink, her cheeks were flushed, her tone coquettish. Cousin, why didn't you wake me when you got up? As she spoke, she gently rolled her neck. I saw it clearly, a deep purple hickey on her neck. 21. My mind went blank with a loud buzz. I knew that mark all too well, because I had many just like it on my chest, my arms, and my covered neck. Shan Jin pushed Shenying aside, grabbed my arm tightly, his dark eyes blazing with anger. Last night, you really sat by the fire with Song Zheng the whole night, Shenying muttered. When I went into your tent in the middle of the night, I did see the two of them sitting by the fire. Went into his tent in the middle of the night. I couldn't help but laugh. That sickly man really had impressive stamina. He'd even managed a seamless transition. I took a deep breath, forced a smile, and met his eyes. Yes, is there a problem with that? Shan Jin stepped back, then broke into a violent fit of coughing, his entire upper body hunched over, as if someone had punched him hard in the stomach. Shenying hurried forward to comfort him, patting his back and rubbing his chest. Shan Jin's face was deathly pale, his spirit broken, letting her fuss over him. I slept for the entire day, waking up when it was already dark. The candlelight in the tent was dim. Shenying sat by the bed, her slender fingers peeling an orange. When she saw me wake up, she handed me the peeled orange. The maid said you've been asleep all day. Cousin sent me to check on you. It's fate that we met, isn't it? Actually, my name wasn't always Shenying. It was Wanyue. When we were little, cousin used to call me Yue. Shenying smiled brightly. Mingyu. Wanyue, we sound like a pair of sisters. I shuddered violently. In the heat of the moment last night, Shan Jin had indeed called out Yue a few times. I sat up. Pushing away the orange Shen Ying insisted on giving me. No need to put on an act in front of me. Rest assured, I won't fight you for him. Shen Ying's smile faded. Her gaze raked over my face inch by inch. Then she smiled a cold, sinister smile. You couldn't win even if you tried, but I'm a generous person. If you really want cousin to take responsibility, I can let him marry you as a noble concubine. I let out a cold laugh. Get out of here at once, otherwise I'll fight you to see who ends up as the wife and who as the concubine. Shen Ying left. My tense body slowly relaxed. A sharp, stabbing pain twisted in my chest and belly. I slapped myself hard across the face. What's wrong with you? You only asked for a child, why did you take it seriously? Haven't all the things you've been through since childhood been enough to make you give up on men for good? But I'd still hoped that Shan Jin was different from the rest. So I secretly asked the maids and servants, and learned that Shen Ying's original name had indeed been Wanyue. Later, it was said her name was Bad Luck, which was why she was always sick, so a master had changed it to Ying, and according to the time Master Shan told me, she'd indeed gone into his tent the moment I left. How ridiculous. I, Song Mingyu, had lived 18 years, only to end up as someone else's substitute. After the winter hunt, a rumor slowly spread through the Marquis mansion. Shan Jin was going to marry Shen Ying, 22. The Marquis mansion was strict with its servants, yet this rumor was not suppressed, which in itself meant it was probably true. A month passed before I knew it, the weather growing colder and colder, the new year drawing near. Inside and outside the mansion, everything was covered in white snow and festive red. One day, I went out with a maid. As soon as I walked out of the small gate of the Marquis mansion, I bumped into Shan Jin head-on. It was snowing again, soft snowflakes still resting on his fox fur cloak, unmelting. I nodded at him in greeting, then walked toward Song Zheng, who was standing by the carriage, waving at me with a bright smile. But I'd only taken 2 steps when my wrist was seized in a tight grip. He coughed softly, his tone strained. I told you, he is not a good man for you. I looked up at him, my gaze sharp and demanding. If he's not, then are you? You're about to marry Miss Shin. You have no right to meddle in my affairs. Dark emotions churned in Shan Jin's eyes. At that moment, I seemed to see endless pain and struggle in them. Cough, cough, cough. He broke into a violent fit of coughing, his jade-white face turning a deep purplish red. I waited for an explanation, a denial, but he only fell into a long, silent pause. I took a deep breath, pried his fingers off my wrist one by one, and bowed to him politely. Young Master Shan, I'll take my leave then. As soon as I stepped down the steps, Song Zheng hurried over, pulled a hand warmer from his arms, and stuffed it into mine. Hurry, take it. The capital is much colder than your Wen County. Don't catch a chill. Knowing I loved good food, Song Zheng took me to Qianwei Ge, the best restaurant in the capital. He even ordered bear's paw as the main dish. I'd already been in a foul mood, and seeing the bear's paw only reminded me of that night. My chest felt tight, my stomach churned, and I vomited violently with a loud retch. Song Zheng was terrified. Ignoring my protests, he picked me up and ran to the nearby Huachun Hall Medical Clinic. A white-bearded old doctor felt my pulse repeatedly, switching from his left hand to his right. I'd always been in good health, so I wasn't the least bit worried. Instead, Song Zheng broke out in a cold sweat, asking repeatedly, "How is she?" The old doctor stroked his beard. "Congratulations, young master, congratulations, madam. The madam is with child, 23, pregnant from just one night." My emotions were a jumble. Song Zheng looked as if he'd been struck by lightning. By the time we returned to the Marquis mansion, the sky had already turned dark. The red lanterns at the mansion gate swayed, casting flickering light and shadow on Shanjin's face when he saw me get out of the carriage. He smiled faintly at me. It was like the first ray of spring sunshine breaking through the ice. That smile calmed my flustered heart, showing me a way forward. Tell him, a voice shouted in my heart. He is the child's father. He has the right to know everything. Perhaps he'd already walked down the steps, reached out to take my hand, his eyes complex, his tone urgent. Mingyu, there's something I must tell you. Actually, when I first brought you to the capital. He hadn't finished speaking when a maid ran out of the mansion in a hurry, shouting as she ran, young master, hurry and see our young lady. The mansion doctor just examined her, she's with child." Shanjin froze completely. After a long moment, he slowly turned around, his voice hoarse to the point of breaking. "What did you say?" The maid's voice was shrill. "Our young lady is with child. Congratulations, young master." All the remaining color drained from Shanjin's face. His gaze locked tightly on me, his lips trembling uncontrollably. Finally, he spat out a large mouthful of blood with a loud gasp. Chaos erupted at the mansion gate in an instant. I panicked terribly and tried to step forward to help, but Master Shan pushed me away hard. His eyes were filled with hostility as he said, "If you truly wish the young master well, stay far away from him." Shan Jin was already 21 this year. The Marquis and Marquise had long worried about his marriage. Yet they had never found a suitable match. Upon learning of Shenying's pregnancy, there was no joy on the Marquis and Marquise's faces. The Marquise even sighed deeply. Its fate, alas. Shan Jin had vomited blood from a mix of rage, anxiety, and frailty, and while his life was not in immediate danger, he needed proper rest and recuperation. His beloved was carrying his child. He should have been happy. Why the anger? I lay on the bed, staring at the intricate patterns on the mosquito net above my head, and smiled softly. I turned to my side, looking at Xiaohua lying at the foot of the bed, and said, "Xiaohua, I'm pregnant. You'll have a little master soon. I'm so happy. Are you happy?" Tick, a tear fell on Xiaohua's head. He woke up and rolled his eyes at me in great annoyance. I slapped him on the head. "You wretched dog, who are you looking down on? This is tears of joy, when I have the baby. I'll make him fight you for bones." Xiaohua let out a low whine and nuzzled my palm with his head. The dream I'd chased for so long had come true. I was going to have a child of my own. I was incredibly happy. Truly, I slept poorly that night, and the next day, the emperor sent eunuch Xiaogui to fetch me. He had two main matters to attend to. First, the mansion the emperor had bestowed upon me was fully renovated, and I could move in on a suitable day to avoid the inconvenience of staying at the Marquis mansion. Second, I had not found anyone to my liking at the winter hunt, and the emperor had kept this in mind. In 5 days, he would summon all the talented young men of the capital for me to choose from. He made sure I would find a satisfactory strong man. 24. I had indeed needed it desperately back then, but the situation was different now. I was already pregnant. I no longer needed a strong man. But I couldn't say that. If I did, trouble would follow when they asked who the child's father was. I rubbed Xiaohua's head hundreds of times, then decided to hire someone to mix in with these so-called talented men and let him become the nominal father of my child. The perfect plan. No one would disagree if I said I was the smartest county lady in the capital, right? Xiaohua let out a loud woof. "Indeed, since you're the only county lady in the capital." I slapped him on the head. "Shut up. Did I ask for your opinion?" I bid farewell to the Marquis and Marquise and moved out of the Marquis mansion in the blink of an eye. Shenying's pregnancy was said to be unstable, and the Marquis and Marquise were preoccupied with worry, so they did not say much. The Marquise urged me one more time, saying the capital was not like When County and that I should be careful with my words and deeds from now on. She added that the Marquis mansion would be like a second home to me. and even gave me the deed of sale for the maid who attended me. The servants loaded my luggage onto the carriage, and I took one last look at the gate of the Marquis mansion. The maid asked in a low voice, "My lady, won't you go bid the young master farewell?" I grinned. No need. I had already bid him a heartfelt farewell in my heart. Farewell, Shan-jin. Farewell, father of my child. On the third day after moving, it was the day the emperor had set for me to choose a husband. Wow. These men must have all been selected from the military, each one tall, strong, and heroic. Once upon a time, I would have drooled over them. But now, the strong men all stared at me with eager eyes, looking at me as if I were a big piece of fat meat. Eunuch Xiaogui spoke obsequiously from the side. "My lady, these candidates were personally chosen by His Majesty. How do you plan to make your selection?" Meaning I shouldn't let the emperor's kindness go to waste. I rolled up my sleeves. Arm wrestling. Whoever beats me, I'll marry him. Mainly because this would make it easy for me to cheat. A commotion broke out among the crowd. The strong men looked at me as if they were pitying a fool. "Men, you're still too young." When I effortlessly beat 20 men in a row at arm wrestling, the expressions on everyone's faces changed. Next. I stretched my wrist and looked up at the man opposite me. Freezing for a moment, it was Song Zheng. He had lost a lot of weight, his eye sockets were sunken, and his eyes were bloodshot. I lowered my voice. "What are you doing here joining in the fun?" His voice was hoarse. "I'm not joining in the fun. My family is pressing me hard to marry, and I don't want to take a wife who will tie me down. Let's form an alliance to solve each other's troubles." His gaze on me was both warm and painful. "Mingyu, let me win. Look behind me." 25. I looked up and saw Shan-jin, dressed in a white fox fur cloak, covering his mouth with a handkerchief and coughing, staring straight at me through the sea of people. My heart lurched violently. What was he doing here? Song Zheng lowered his voice. "If you don't let me win, are you sure you can beat him? Or are you willing to go to him and share a husband with Shenying?" I lowered my eyes, avoiding Shan-jin's spider web-like gaze, slowly placed my hand on the table, and forced a smile at Song Zheng. "Come on." Song Zheng took a deep breath and grasped my hand. As a young general who had fought on the battlefield, his strength was far greater than the previous men's. My hand wavered, and when I looked up, I saw the maid beside Shenying appear, speaking anxiously to Shan-jin. I smiled softly and loosened my strength. Slap! Song Zheng pressed my hand down on the table. He had one. He stared at the scene in disbelief, frozen for several seconds. Then suddenly walked around the table and hugged me tightly, overjoyed. "Mingyu, you're mine, you're mine." I let him hold me numbly, and met Shan-jin's gaze through the crowd, sharp, painful, as if he had 1,000 words to say. I placed my hand on my belly and looked away. The matter was settled, and everyone left. Silence returned to the mansion. I lifted my foot to go to the backyard, but my wrist was seized tightly by Shan-jin. His gaze burned like fire. "Song Mingyu, are you really going to decide your life's fate so recklessly?" Song Zhenghe. My heart and guts trembled. My hand hidden in my sleeve clenched into a fist, and I interrupted him with a smile. "If I don't be with Song Zheng, should I be your concubine instead?" Shan-jin's face turned pale in an instant. "I would never let you be a concubine. Give me a little time. I will definitely, then be your wife, and let Shenying be the concubine." I scoffed and interrupted him. "I'm a country girl. But my mother told me since I was little, either don't marry at all, but if I have to, my husband must never have anyone else for the rest of his life." I pulled the jade pendant from my chest and handed it to him. "I only found out a few days ago that this is the heirloom jade pendant of the Marquis mansion. It's not suitable for me. Please take it back, young master." 26. His expression was cold and painful. "What's given is given, there's no taking it back, but I don't want it." I couldn't have it, even if I wanted to. I forced the jade pendant into his hand, But he turned away with a cold face. In the tussle, the jade pendant fell to the ground, a sharp crack rang out, and the jade pendant split into two halves. Both Shan Jin and I froze. I smiled indifferently. It's broken. Neither of us can have it now, young Master Shan. We will soon marry other people. We'd better keep in touch as little as possible in the future. I stood on the tallest pavilion in the mansion, watching Shan Jin cough as he boarded the carriage. The wind and snow raged. His white fox fur cloak fluttered violently, as if it would carry his thin figure away with the wind. The maid stepped forward, handed me the broken jade pendant, and sighed. "My lady, stop crying." Was I crying? I wiped my face with my hand, and it was wet. It was just the wind being too strong. I took the jade pendant and clenched it tightly in my hand. Whole, I couldn't have it. Broken, I could keep it well. I waved my hand grandly and smiled brightly. "Maid, being a county lady is wonderful. Find more people to come and make me happy. Wealth, leisure and a little power. Wasn't this the life I dreamed of?" Soon, gossip spread through the capital. The county lady's mansion held feasts every night, and the county lady's fiancé, young General Song, not only did not stop it, but even helped call people from Chiao Pavilion. This couple was truly birds of a feather. During this time, the maid also told me that Shan Jin had fallen seriously ill after returning to the mansion that day and had been bedridden ever since. Shen Ying had gone to see him many times, but had not even been allowed to see his face. The maid glanced at me secretly and said in a low voice, "Your maid heard that the young master said he would marry Shen Ying, but he would never step foot in her room for the rest of his life. Can you believe that?" I pulled out the hairpin from my head and rolled my eyes. "Men's words are deceitful lies. Maid, do you even believe that?" Soon it was little New Year's Eve. I sent Song Jing back to the general's mansion, and the musicians and singers were gone too. The mansion was quiet for once. On such a happy day, the tactless Shen Ying came to the door to annoy me. 27. She was wrapped up tightly, wearing loose clothes, counting the days. She and I should have become pregnant on the same day, yet her pregnancy was far more obvious than mine. After I dismissed the maids as she requested, she grabbed my hand in panic. "Sister Mingyu, leave the capital at once, otherwise, you will be in mortal danger." I had no idea what trick she was playing, so I frowned and remained silent. She leaned forward, her voice lowering even more. "His Majesty favors you because he thinks you are his long-lost daughter living among the people. Cousin brought you back to the capital precisely because your mother's surname is Song and you have no father since childhood." I thought for a moment and asked, "If it's not me, then where is the emperor's real daughter now? And why would Shan Jin commit the crime of deceiving the emperor?" Shen Ying stroked her belly gently. "I am the emperor's real daughter. From her account, I learned the whole story, many years ago, when the emperor was still a prince. He had traveled to the south of the Yangtze River on official business and made a private vow of eternal love with Shen Ying's mother. After returning to the capital, the late emperor had already chosen a princess for him, Shan Jin's aunt, to fight for the throne smoothly. The emperor chose to accept it and concealed his love affair with Shen Ying's mother. On the eve of his wedding, Shen Ying's mother had come to the capital with the infant Shen Ying, and by a stroke of luck, she was rescued by the current empress. If Shen Ying's mother's matter had been exposed, the emperor would surely have been attacked by his political enemies, and for the sake of the Marquis of Zhunbei's reputation, the marriage might have been called off. I panicked and tried to step forward to help, but Master Shan pushed me away forcefully. His eyes were filled with hostility. "If you truly wish the young master well, stay far away from him." Shan Jin was already 21 this year. The Marquis and his wife had long worried about his marriage, yet no suitable match had ever been found. Upon hearing of Shen Ying's pregnancy, there was no joy on the Marquis and his wife's faces. The Marquise even sighed deeply. "It's all fate. Alas, Shan Jin had vomited blood from a mix of rage, anxiety, and frailty. His life was not in immediate danger for the time being, but he still needed proper rest and recuperation. His beloved was carrying his child, he should have been over the moon. Why the anger? I lay on the bed, staring at the intricate patterns on the mosquito net above, and smiled softly. I turned to my side, looking at Xiaohua lying at the foot of the bed, and said, "Xiaohua, I'm pregnant. You'll have a little master soon. I'm so happy. Are you happy?" Tick, a tear fell on Xiaohua's head. He woke up and rolled his eyes at me in great annoyance. I slapped him on the head. "You wretched dog, who are you looking down on? These are tears of joy. When I have the baby, I'll make him fight you for bones." Xiaohua let out a low whine and nuzzled my palm with his head. The dream I'd chased for so long had come true. I was going to have a child of my own. I was incredibly happy. Truly. I slept poorly that night, and the next day the emperor sent eunuch Xiaogui to fetch me. He had two main errands. First, the mansion the emperor had bestowed upon me was fully renovated, and I could move in on an auspicious day to avoid the inconvenience of staying at the Marquis mansion. Second, I had not found anyone to my liking at the winter hunt, and the emperor had kept this in mind. In 5 days, he would summon all the talented young men of the capital for me to choose from. He made sure I would find a satisfactory strong man. 24. I had indeed needed it desperately back then. But the situation was different now. I was already pregnant, I no longer needed a strong man. But I couldn't say that. If I did, trouble would follow when they asked who the child's father was. I rubbed Xiaohua's head hundreds of times, then decided to hire someone to mix in with these so-called talented men and let him become the nominal father of my child. The perfect plan. No one would disagree if I said I was the smartest county lady in the capital. Right? Xiaohua let out a loud woof. Indeed, since you're the only county lady in the capital. I slapped him on the head. Shut up. Did I ask for your opinion? I bid farewell to the Marquis and his wife and moved out of the Marquis mansion in the blink of an eye. Xinying's pregnancy was said to be unstable, and the Marquis and his wife were preoccupied with worry, so they did not say much. The Marquise urged me one more time, saying the capital was not like When County and that I should be careful with my words and deeds from now on. She added that the Marquis mansion would be like a second home to me, and even gave me the deed of sale for the maid who attended me. The servants loaded my luggage onto the carriage, and I took one last look at the gate of the Marquis mansion. The maid asked in a low voice, "My lady, won't you go bid the young master farewell?" I grinned, no need. I had already bid him a heartfelt farewell in my heart. Farewell, Shan Jin, farewell, father of my child. On the 3rd day after moving, it was the day the emperor had set for me to choose a husband. Wow, these men must have all been selected from the military, each one tall, strong, and heroic. Once upon a time, I would have drooled over them. But now, the strong men all stared at me with eager eyes, looking at me as if I were a big piece of fat meat. Eunuch Xiaogui spoke obsequiously from the side. "My lady, these candidates were personally chosen by His Majesty. How do you plan to make your selection?" Meaning I shouldn't let the emperor's kindness go to waste. I rolled up my sleeves. "Arm wrestling. Whoever beats me, I'll marry him, mainly because this would make it easy for me to cheat." A commotion broke out among the crowd. The strong men looked at me as if they were pitying a fool. "Men, you're still too young," when I effortlessly beat 20 men in a row at arm wrestling. The expressions on everyone's faces changed. Next, I stretched my wrist and looked up at the man opposite me, freezing for a moment. It was Song Zheng. He had lost a lot of weight, his eye sockets were sunken, and his eyes were bloodshot. I lowered my voice. "What are you doing here joining in the fun?" His voice was hoarse. "I'm not joining in the fun. My family is pressing me hard to marry, and I don't want to take a wife who will tie me down. Let's form an alliance to solve each other's troubles." His gaze on me was both warm and painful. Mingyu, let me win. Look behind me. 25. I looked up and saw Shan Jin, dressed in a white fox fur cloak, covering his mouth with a handkerchief and coughing, staring straight at me through the sea of people. My heart lurched violently. What was he doing here? Song Zheng lowered his voice. If you don't let me win, are you sure you can beat him? Or are you willing to go to him and share a husband with Shen Ying? I lowered my eyes, avoiding Shan Jin's spider web-like gaze, slowly placed my hand on the table, and forced a smile at Song Zheng. Come on. Song Zheng took a deep breath and grasped my hand. As a young general who had fought on the battlefield, his strength was far greater than the previous men's. My hand wavered, and when I looked up, I saw the maid beside Shen Ying appear, speaking anxiously to Shan Jin. I smiled softly and loosened my strength. Slap! Song Zheng pressed my hand down on the table. He had one. He stared at the scene in disbelief, frozen for several seconds, then suddenly walked around the table and hugged me tightly, overjoyed. Mingyu, you're mine, you're mine. I let him hold me numbly, and met Shan Jin's gaze through the crowd, sharp, painful, as if he had 1,000 words to say. I placed my hand on my belly and looked away. The matter was settled, and everyone left. Silence returned to the mansion. I lifted my foot to go to the backyard, but my wrist was seized tightly by Shan Jin. His gaze burned like fire. Song Mingyu, are you really going to decide your life's fate so recklessly? Song Zhenghe, my heart and guts trembled, my hand hidden in my sleeve clenched into a fist, and I interrupted him with a smile. If I don't be with Song Zheng, should I be your concubine instead? Shan Jin's face turned pale in an instant. I would never let you be a concubine. Give me a little time. I will definitely, then be your wife, and let Shen Ying be the concubine. I scoffed and interrupted him. I'm a country girl, but my mother told me since I was little, either don't marry at all. But if I have to, my husband must never have anyone else for the rest of his life. I pulled the jade pendant from my chest and handed it to him. I only found out a few days ago that this is the heirloom jade pendant of the Marquis mansion. It's not suitable for me. Please take it back, young master. 26. His expression was cold and painful. What's given is given, there's no taking it back. But I don't want it, I couldn't have it. Even if I wanted to. I forced the jade pendant into his hand, but he turned away with a cold face. In the tussle, the jade pendant fell to the ground. A sharp crack rang out, and the jade pendant split into two halves. Both Shan Jin and I froze. I smiled indifferently. It's broken. Neither of us can have it now, young Master Shan. We will soon marry other people. We'd better keep in touch as little as
Ying, who had spent the night with him, and let him become the nominal father of the child without a second thought. I had to admit, it was a brilliant plan. Master Shan lay limp on the ground, tears and snot streaming down his face. Young master, when did you find out something was wrong? Shan Jin shot me a glance. From the moment I found out she was pregnant, my eyes widened in shock. He knew I was pregnant. How did he find out? Shan Jin said flatly. Someone who used to eat a big bowl full at every meal suddenly became so picky about food. There must be a reason for that. Was I a pig? When did I eat a big bowl full? I only ate a little more than half a bowl. Okay. Shan Jin's voice was filled with remorse. There was a traitor by my side, but I didn't have a sure grasp of the situation for a while. For your safety, it was better to let you leave the mansion for the time being. Half of the men you met these days were arranged by me. I want to thank you and your entire family. Thank you for your great tolerance, for being so diligent in finding other men for the mother of your child. Master Shan had followed Shan Jin for many years and had saved his life several times in danger. In the end, Shan Jin did not have him put to death. He only crippled his martial arts and sent him to a manor far away from the capital with Shen Ying. They were guarded day and night, to live in the same house, have children, and grow old together. I did not know if Master Shan was happy, but for Shen Ying, every day for the rest of her life would definitely be torture, as she was taken away. She screamed shrilly, "Shan Jin, you will regret it. What your Marquis mansion owes me, you will pay back sooner or later." It started to snow, large snowflakes were blown about wildly by the wind. Shan Jin held a hand warmer and asked, "Do you think the Marquis mansion owes her?" I curled my lips. If I were the Empress, I would have had two choices back then. First, hand her and her mother over to the Emperor. The Emperor would have a stain on his reputation. And even if he had loved her deeply once, he would have resented them mother and daughter later, wouldn't he? Second, kill them directly, and be done with it forever, eliminating all future troubles. It's clear that the people of your Marquis of Junbei Mansion are just too kind-hearted. Shan Jin looked at me in surprise. "You know quite a lot." I nodded, my gaze far away. My mother taught me a little about these things occasionally. I brushed my sleeves and let out a big yawn. "I'm a little tired, I'll go back to my mansion first. We can talk about everything else another day." I rolled my eyes and tried to slip away, but unexpectedly, after taking a few steps, the back of my collar was grabbed by Shan Jin, 29, his free hand slid up my sleeve. Wow, the stack of banknotes I had hidden in my sleeve was snatched away by him. He opened the banknotes, 500, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000. He raised his eyebrows and looked at me, meaningfully asking, "Why are you carrying so many banknotes with you?" I smiled awkwardly. "Well, I was poor when I was little, so naturally I feel at ease carrying them with me." He curled his lips and picked out a piece of paper from among them. "Then what about this identity document?" I swallowed nervously and tried to grab it back, but he had already tucked it neatly into his chest. I couldn't stop in time and crashed straight into his arms. He held me tightly in his arms, his warm breath brushing against my ear. "Don't think I don't know you're trying to run away. Either take me with you, or leave the child behind." How could I leave the child behind? I was so scared that I quickly covered my belly and snapped, "What nonsense are you talking about? He can hear you. When he's born, he'll pull all your hair out." He smiled softly, revealing a familiar red string on his wrist. "As long as you're willing to stay, I'd even let him pull me bald." I looked up at him. Such a handsome face. If he were bald, it would be such a waste. Forget it then. Anyway, before I knew it, I didn't leave. That night, I tossed and turned in bed, unable to fall asleep. Finally, I buried my head in the quilt and giggled non-stop. Well, although Shan Jin's health is a little poor, his ability is unquestionable. He is so handsome, and he has no scandals either. Has God been too kind to me? Am I dreaming? The maid heard the commotion and came in. Seeing me trembling under the quilt, she persuaded me earnestly, "My lady, don't be too sad. No one expected Master Shan and Shenying to. Don't cover your head. You'll suffocate yourself." She lifted the quilt, and then, I guess the maid left cursing under her breath. Soon it was New Year's Eve. Song Zhang arrived early in the morning with many things. Grinning from ear to ear, "I specially asked a friend to get these southern pickles for you. You've been complaining about losing your appetite these days. And these are sour plums. These are pickled bamboo shoots." I interrupted him. "I'm sorry, Song Zheng, we can't continue with our previous agreement. Shan Jin has found out I'm pregnant, and he knows the child is his." Song Zheng's hand trembled, and a jar of pickles crashed to the ground with a bang. He squatted down to pick up the shards. And I hurried to help, but the moment my hand touched the broken tiles, he gently patted the back of my hand. "Go sit over there. Don't cut yourself. I'll call the maid to clean this up." "No, I broke it. I'll clean it up myself." He lowered his head in silence and took a long time to finish cleaning up. When he finally finished, he looked up and smiled at me. "This is for the best. But it's hard on me. I'll definitely be nagged by my parents during the new year. I'm sorry." I twisted my sleeves. "Shall I introduce some girls to you?" Song Zheng clapped his hands. "Forget it. How many girls could you have met since you came to the capital?" That was true. With Song Zheng's reputation, the girls he knew could probably form a line long enough to string a skewer of lamb kebabs. Song Zheng insisted on having lunch at the county lady's mansion. When he left after eating, he happened to meet Shan Jin, who was dressed in his finest, 30, beneath his white fox fur cloak. He wore a dark red outer robe, which made his features even more picturesque, like a painting come to life. The two met head-on in the corridor. and Song Zheng deliberately bumped his shoulder into Shan Jin's, but Shan Jin did not move an inch, while Song Zheng himself frowned slightly and let out a soft gasp of pain. He stared at Shan Jin fiercely. Mingyu is like my younger sister. If you dare to betray her, I will risk my life to avenge her. Shan Jin smiled faintly, rest assured. Brother-in-law, I will treat her well. Song Zheng was almost infuriated by that single word brother-in-law. Today I would attend the palace banquet with Shan Jin. Shan Jin had already reported my pregnancy to the emperor. Fortunately, earlier Song Zheng had won the arm wrestling match against me, and I had told eunuch Xiaogui that I was not necessarily going to marry him, so the emperor had not issued an imperial edict. For now, there was still room for maneuver. Now that Shan Jin was taking me to the banquet with him, it was an indirect statement of his and the Marquis of Junbei Mansion's stance. In the carriage to the palace, Shan Jin kept coughing softly. He held my hand tightly. Did you remember everything I just said? This concerns your life. You must not make a single mistake. I yawned. I remember. My identity was a ticking time bomb. If anyone wanted to detonate it, the New Year's Eve banquet tonight would be the perfect time. Shan Jin's philosophy was that instead of waiting for disaster to strike, it was better to face it head-on. As long as we got through this hurdle, I would be safe forever after. The carriage traveled all the way to the palace gate, and unexpectedly, we ran into Qing Yuan head-on, draped in that bright red robe. He looked just like a plump New Year pig wrapped in red silk by a wealthy landowner, inflated and waiting to be slaughtered. Fat Pig Qing stared at me and smiled sinisterly. You will be mine sooner or later. I rolled my eyes at him twice. Shan Jin's expression darkened slightly. This was my first time attending a palace feast. The delicacies and delicious foods were endless, and I buried my head in eating, completely oblivious to the hidden tensions behind the toasts and greetings of the others. But the emperor would not let me off the hook. After 3 rounds of drinking, he called my name and spoke a few gentle words to me. In fact, I understood. What he said was not the point. Being called by name was enough to show that I held a place in his heart. I mumbled a few replies, about to continue eating. When Qing Yuan stood up, he shot me a vicious glare and said, Your Majesty, your subject wishes to accuse the Marquis of Junbei Mansion of pulling the wool over everyone's eyes. The identity of Lady Mingyu is suspicious. Everyone in the hall was stunned, and even the emperor's face darkened immediately, beneath the table. Shan Jin held my hand tightly and gave me a look that said don't be afraid. Qing Yuan did not give the emperor time to react, and rattled off the entire sequence of events in one go. He said that the Marquis of Junbei Mansion had deliberately found me to impersonate a member of the royal family to cover up their mistakes from all those years ago, and that the real princess had long been defiled by the guards they ordered, and was even imprisoned privately. Wow. With this reversal of black and white, the crimes of the Marquis of Junbei Mansion were doubled. If the Marquis of Junbei Mansion fell, the Empress would lose her backer, and then Imperial concubine Qing's ascension to power would be just around the corner. Silence fell over the hall. The Emperor's face turned pitch black, and his sharp, falcon-like eyes stared in our direction. His voice cold. Marquis of Junbei, explain yourself to me. The Marquis and Marquise of Junbei fell to their knees with a thud. Shan Jin was extremely calm. Your Majesty, this matter is of great importance. You must not listen to the nonsense of the young Master Qing. Whether Lady Mingyu is your blood relative or not, you only need to test it, Your Majesty. He had already made me take medicine in advance, and had also asked the Empress to tamper with things on the Emperor's side. If we did a blood test at this moment, our blood would definitely fuse together. Imperial concubine Qing adjusted the pearls and jade on her head. The blood test method is not entirely accurate. Young Master Shan should properly explain the ins and outs of this matter. Shan Jin was prepared for this too. He shot me a glance. I put down the chicken leg I had been gnawing on half of. Sigh. My turn to take the stage. I pinched my arm hard, and immediately tears welled up in my eyes from the pain. I raised my teary eyes to look at the Emperor, and smiled sadly. Your Majesty, could it be that you are really my father? Imperial concubine Qing's face turned cold, about to reprimand me, but I was quick enough to roll up my sleeve. Mother said that if I ever met father, I only need to show him this, and he would understand. On the inside of my left elbow, there was a black mole. The Empress let out a cry of surprise. This, Your Majesty, you have an identical mole in this exact spot too. Back then, Mother took me north. On the way, we met another woman traveling to the capital to find her husband, and the two of us traveled together. Unexpectedly, that woman contracted a terrible illness halfway and died, leaving behind a child around my age. Mother had no choice but to take the child with her too. When we entered the capital, we learned that Father had already had a marriage arranged by his family elders. Unwilling to be a concubine, and not wanting to put Father in a difficult position, Mother decided to turn back, but unexpectedly, that child around my age fell seriously ill and was dying. Fortunately, the Marquis mansion came to our aid and saved the child's life. That child has been weak since childhood, unable to take her with her. Mother entrusted her to the care of the Marquis mansion. She then secretly left with me alone. My tears fell to the ground. Your Majesty, you should know what kind of person Mother was. She would never have agreed to be a concubine, much less a secret lover living in the shadows. Nor would she have left her own child behind and fled to save her own life. The Emperor's expression was shaken, his tense face slowly softened, and his voice was filled with regret. Indeed, it is I who have wronged your mother. Back then, I had no choice but to yield to the circumstances. I sneered silently. Now he said he had no choice but to yield to the circumstances. But if she had really come to him back then, would he have dared to announce it to the world? The faction of imperial concubine Qing would not easily give up the opportunity they had finally seized. Qing Yuan gritted his teeth. Your Majesty, all this is a pre-prepared story by the Marquis of Zhenbei Mansion. You must not believe it easily. The Marquis of Zhenbei Mansion knew about Lady Song's existence all those years ago, yet they concealed it and did not report it, all for the sake of the princess's position. This is the crime of deceiving the Emperor. Your Majesty, you must not indulge them. The slightly relaxed expressions of the Marquis of Zhenbei and Shan Jin tensed up again in an instant. Qing Yuan stared at me fiercely. The majesty of the Emperor cannot be violated. I advise you to tell the truth. For the sake of your ignorance as a country girl, the Emperor may spare your life. Did he take me for a fool? If I recanted now, even if I survived, I would spend the rest of my life in a prison cell. I sighed in disappointment. Young Master Qing, on the first day I came to the capital, you tried to take advantage of me. As a result, I threw you to the ground so hard that your butt almost split open. I never thought you would hold such a grudge. Qing Yuan's face turned bright red. You little bitch, what nonsense are you talking about? He was about to continue cursing when the Duke of Qing pulled him hard. I shot a cold glance at the father and son, then pulled a yellowed envelope out of my sleeve. Your Majesty, this is a letter my mother gave me before she left. You may read it for yourself. Eunuch Xiaogui stepped forward, took the envelope, and presented it to the Emperor. After reading it, the Emperor's eyes turned red. Finally, he stood up from his throne, walked to my side and helped me up, letting out a long sigh. Mingyu, it is I who have wronged you, and wronged your mother. By my imperial decree, confer upon Mingyu the title of Princess Mingyu, with a fief of 5,000 households. I leaned in and whispered, Father Emperor, I don't want a strong man anymore. Now I like sickly men. The Emperor was stunned, then burst out laughing. Very well, since that is your wish, I will bestow a marriage between you and the son of the Marquis of Zhenbei, Shan Jin. You must not mistreat the apple of my eye. Shan Jin touched his forehead to the ground. Thank you for your great kindness, Your Majesty. The Marquis of Zhenbei Mansion emerged unscathed, but the Duke of Qing's mansion suffered a terrible fate. The New Year's Eve banquet was supposed to be a time of joy for the ruler and his ministers. Yet they had falsely accused the Empress and the Marquis of Zhenbei Mansion without conclusive evidence. Imperial concubine Qing was demoted to the rank of noble lady, and Qing Yuan was stripped of his title as young master. The Duke of Qing was advanced in years, so the Emperor did not punish him, but the title of Duke would no longer be hereditary in the Duke's mansion from now on. In other words, when the Duke of Qing died, the century-old foundation of the Duke's mansion would vanish into thin air.